The Gospel of Luke, besides being known by many other names, is also known as the Gospel of the Poor, because Luke gives special importance, special consideration to the poor in his Gospel. It is only in the Gospel of Luke that the parable that we will hear today is found. It is not found in any other Gospel, but is exclusive to Luke. It is known as the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. And what is striking about this parable is that a character in the parable is named. There is no other parable which Jesus told in which any character is named. The person in the parable might be a sower, might be a landowner, might be a laborer, might be a king, might be a woman, might be a man, but never named except in today's parable, known as the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. What is the parable about? There is a man who is rich and has all the comforts and luxuries that he can have. And there is another man just near his doorstep named Lazarus. And the meaning of the word Lazarus, the meaning of the name Lazarus is God helps. And because God helps that man, the poor man, finally, his name is God helps, his name is Lazarus. But this man, who is Lazarus, poor, sitting near the doorstep of the rich man, and the rich man is so caught up in himself, is so caught up in his riches, is so caught up in filling himself with his comforts and luxuries that he is not even aware that there is someone poor. Our country, India, is a country in which the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. 5% of the population of the country who are rich possess more than 90% of the wealth of the country, and this parable is dedicated to these who are unconcerned about others, who don't give a damn about others, who say that their needs are primary and their needs are all that they will be concerned about. And then the rich man dies, and he can take nothing of his riches with him. When the Greek tycoon Aristotle Onassis died, someone asked, how much did he leave? And someone said tongue-in-cheek, he left everything. In other words, he could take nothing with him. And so this rich man, the rich of our country who do not care about the poor, die and they go to God. And God now judges them. And the judgment is terrible because they did not care about the poor, because they were so caught up in themselves. They are sent to a place where they will continue to focus only on themselves, and that place is termed hell. And after a few years, because of his poverty, the poor man also died. But the poor man was taken into the bosom of God, because the poor man lived a life of struggle, the poor man lived a life of difficulty, the poor man lived an arduous life, because of which now he is rewarded. And the rich man is so caught up in himself that even as he burns in the fires of hell, all he can think of is himself. And he asks God to let this poor man, whom he now knows by name, because the rich man says, let Lazarus, oh, how do you know his name now? When he was at your doorstep, you never recognized him, you never acknowledged him, you never gave him even the morsel from your table. And now you know his name because you're focusing on yourself. You want him to do you a favor. Let him dip his finger, the tip of his finger, in water and cool my tongue, because I am in torment, the rich man says. But God cannot allow that, because it seems that the rich man has learnt nothing. He has not learned that if only he could be a little selfless, if only he could be a little giving, he would not focus so much on himself. He's caught not only with the sin of omission, that is, not doing something for the poor man, he's also caught, unfortunately, in the sin of self-centeredness, in the sin of self-focus, in the sin of selfishness. The rich man now realizes and asks God to send a messenger to his family, to the people who are alive, to his brothers and sisters on the earth, so that they don't behave in the same manner. And God says, they have enough of messages already. They can see that the poor are suffering all over the country. They can see that the poor are suffering all over the world. If they were really serious about giving, now is the time they have to give. And so God will not send another messenger. God has given enough messages already, and for us as Christians, the message that we always require, the message that is given definitively, is in Jesus Christ. And so therefore, Jesus has shown us what we must do to gain entry into the kingdom. And Jesus says very strongly, it is not those who say to me, Lord, Lord, who will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of God. And what is the will of God? The will of God in this context is to be a little less selfish. The will of God is to say that those who are living lives of poverty are my brothers and sisters, that for whatever reason I have blessed with abundance and more, and the will of God is that I share with them this abundance, that I let them partake of my abundance so I can become a little less selfish. I will not be guilty of the sin of omission, and I will gain my place in heaven. And so each one of us is called through the challenging reading of today, through the parable which Jesus tells, to ask ourselves serious questions. Can I be guilty of the sin of omission, of closing my eyes, of closing my ears, of closing my mind and heart to the suffering of people around me? Can I be guilty of wishing them well and of praying for them through my lips, but doing nothing to reach out to help them? Can I be accused of that sin of omission which focuses only on myself? A sin of selfishness, a sin of self-centeredness, a sin even after I have all that I require, I need more. When is enough enough? Can I sit down and draw a line and say, this is enough? What is excess belongs to others. If we can do that, we have learned from the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. If we can do that, then our place in heaven is assured.